Thank you for watching WISD TV and welcome to the locker room at Waco ISD Stadium. My name is Dale Caffey. It is my pleasure to introduce to you the new AD, the new athletic director at Waco ISD. This is Coach Johnny Tusa. No strange face to Central Texas or to Waco ISD because for about almost 30 years, Coach, you worked at Waco ISD.
Yeah, so closer to 40, Dale, almost 4 decades, and just seemed like yesterday, but been around a while.
Talk about your return as the athletic director, and I know you have been gone for about 4 years. You retired 4 years ago, and the thought that went into you coming back as the athletic director.
Well, I don't think, Dale, that it's any secret that all coaches like a challenge, and I have had the good fortune of being part of the American Football Coaches Association for the last 4 years under Executive Director Grant Taff, and that's been an invaluable learning curve for me, and it's been just an unbelievable situation where I had the opportunity to see things from a different vantage point. And you know, coming into an athletic directorship, you not only work with the sport that you coached when you were there, but you work with all sports, and you know, you realize that everything has its importance, its equal importance, and its equal value, because anything that a child is involved in, that's the most important thing in their life.
I know in your news conference you said you don't look in the rearview mirror a whole lot, but we're going to reminisce just a little bit. Back in the early 1980s, you were at a school then known as Jefferson with a struggling team, and that seemed to me like something that really put your name on the map at the time when you turned that team around. Do you still look back at those days?
Yeah, you look back at those days and wonder how you did it. As I told people, I took a struggling program and kept it there for a couple of years, and so there was no movement. But you know, as life is all about unexpected events, Dale, and you know, the good Lord put us in a position over there, and we stayed the course. I had some great help. We had a run of athletes, and we turned that corner, and really hadn't looked back since. You know, that from 1981 to 2008, we've been involved in 23 playoff scenarios of all kinds, and the credit goes to those kids in the arena. You know, coaches put the vehicle in place, offer the inspiration, do those kinds of things, but you're only successful if you have guys that can execute and perform and have the abilities to do things. And fortunately, sometimes on any given year or any given situation, you're at the right place at the right time.
I know as athletic director now, you're over the overall athletic program at 2 schools, and that means the coming together and the unification, really, even though they're 2 rivals, University and Waco High. But you had a little example of having to unify a team back in 1986 when you had the consolidation then of Richfield, Jefferson Moore, and Waco High. So talk a little bit about you having to step into that role and really take 3 teams and make them into 1.
Yeah, well, Dale, that was an interesting time, as you might well expect. That came about prior to the 1986 season. It actually came about in late December of 1985 when the school board decided to do that, and I was the first person hired, mainly because there was going to be a schedule in 1986, and we had to put 3 high schools together. So there were guys hired from each high school. There were players that came from each school. That was some interesting times, because that spring we had to bus people into the Tyson Field area to have spring training, and there were many guys that had started on one campus that maybe were in a backup role. So you know, when I look back, I really and truly look back in amazement, because that first year we were 9-1 and got beat in the first playoff game at Texas Stadium that year by Longview, and we only lost that one game by 1 point to Temple at that time, and Tyson Field could not hold the crowd in those first few years that we were there. But you know, when you're in the arena, you don't really look at anything but the job at hand, And when I look back, it's a little bit more daunting than it was at that particular time, because I was so geared to put Waco on the map, to give it a first-class program. Like I said, I had great training in high school and played for one of the finest gentlemen in Lloyd Taylor at Tarleton State, and I was just anxious to impart that, and I've felt that way, I guess, for the better part of this, and even to this day.
We're going to broaden the conversation in just a moment, because not only do you have football to look over, you have a bunch of sports to look over. We have all sorts of jerseys and paraphernalia behind us that we'll talk about. But I do want to fast forward from '86, 20 years, to the year 2006, and what a magical season that was.
It really was. It was as magical a season as you could only dream about, and of course you dream about that every year. But our goal all along at Waco High was to play for the prize, and there's only one prize, and that's the state championship. And Dale, you know, we lost that ball game and state championship game, but we had a tremendous team with a tremendous run, and there's going to be a first and there's going to be a second. But I'm reminded a little bit of the Buffalo Bills and what I heard Jim Kelly say one time after they had lost 4 Super Bowls. He said, if I knew that I could get to this game every year, that's satisfaction enough. And after the hurt and the time that passed, I thought the same thing. How special was that? How special is it to be in that ball game? And if the good Lord will let you go there every year, you're going to take that ticket.
That'd be great. Okay, let's talk about other sports, because obviously you're now over every sport that is played at Waco ISD, boys and girls. And of course, in your past, I don't think you had an opportunity to go to many volleyball games, because you were always busy with football on a Friday night. But talk about now being over all the sports.
Well, yeah, that's you know, that's what the job description calls for. But more than that, that's something that I want to do, and I look forward to the opportunity. I have a daughter that coaches girls sports, so I've been indoctrinated into that. I've been told where I'll be, but you know, we want every sport to be successful. We want every child to have a first-class experience with that sport, and if I can help in any way, coaching is coaching. It doesn't matter what sport it is, you're looking for the same things. You're looking for quality, you're looking for organization, you're looking for planning, and you're looking for a vehicle to allow that child to get the most out of that experience and be as well into it as they possibly can by you providing that vehicle.
Let's talk a little bit about the staff you have in place, and of course we can start out with the 2 protégés that are leading the athletic programs, not just the football teams, but their athletic coordinators at each of your high schools. Keith Willis over at University, Marty Herbst at Waco High School. 2 of the guys that you brought to the district, one of which played for you, obviously, Keith Willis at Jefferson Moore. Was having them in place key to your decision to come back and be the AD?
I don't think there's any question about that. I had talked to them prior to talking to Dr. Kane about what they were thinking and what their feelings were, and you know, and they obviously, you know, in any situation, you'd like to have someone that you're familiar with, because the transition and the curve is diminished. But that played a key role. I consider my staff members as family, and for them to reach out and tell me or talk to me about doing this, that was a critical point for me, and not as critical as my family, because this is going to be obviously this is going to be a change for us once again. But there's no doubt the quality of those 2 gentlemen, as you have already experienced with Coach Herbst, and most people have experienced with Coach Willis, is just something to behold, and I am thrilled to be once again a small part of what they do.
Let's talk a little bit about what you have talked about throughout your career. You've always considered sports to be an extension of the classroom. In fact, a Friday night classroom in your case.
Yes, there was no question about it. I think that fields and gyms and what have you are the outdoor classrooms that that are essential curriculum. I just think that children growing up need to be involved with groups and they need to be on teams. But the main thing, Dale, that you have to learn from participation is selflessness, and that's an important characteristic that a coach has to work on, because most people come with the "what about me" attitude and how do I fit in. So that's going to be an integral part of what we do in this district as coaches, what we discuss, how we let that be known to our clientele and to the young student athletes on the team. But co-curricular, essential curricular is a better term than extracurricular, because I think it's vitally important for kids to participate. And that doesn't stop at the water's edge of athletics. It goes into the choir, it goes into the band, the one-act play. You know, I had a daughter that went to Waco High that benefited greatly from the choir program, and so I know the value of everything. I may not know the intricacies of it, but I appreciate those people that immerse themselves into something and it becomes greater than them.
And you made reference in your news conference when you were announced earlier today about the other things that being involved in these extracurriculars bring about: a better student, better attendance, things of that nature.
Yeah, you know, there's no question. We used to do the math for ourselves, and I've been able to study this on a national basis being at the AFCA office, but grade point averages are 2 to 1 in most every state across the country. Less discipline problems. You know, you got a more motivated student, more likely to go on to higher education. There are 4 or 5 tangents in there that speak well for involvement of young student athletes or student participants in things other than just their academic curricula.
And finally, I guess you attended your first meeting as your district meeting today as athletic director. You've probably been in a meeting like that before, but now you were in there in official capacity as athletic director. That's going to be your day-to-day life. Is that something, the taste of what you got this morning, what you're looking forward to?
Well, it brought back a rush of memories. It's just as difficult. It was just as difficult this morning as it's been. But you know, each school district takes care of their school district participants, their teams. And this district, 8-4A, is we and I think Burleson are the only 2 multi-school participants in the district. So there was some interesting conversation this morning, and we'll convene again in a couple of weeks, and maybe by then I'll know somebody's name over there. But it was interesting. I enjoyed it.
Well, Coach, best of luck, and welcome back to Waco ISD.
Dave. Appreciate you.
Once again, this is Coach Johnny Tusa, the new athletic director at Waco ISD, where there are learners today, leaders tomorrow.